talk about the C4 Corvette, specifically the ZR1 Corvette, which I believe is, in my opinion, one of the most extraordinary cars GM ever built. GM bought Lotus and asked them, they set out to build the world's fastest production car. The ZR1 was that car. Lotus designed the engine. It was 4 camshafts, 32 valves. Initial engine was 375 horsepower. It was a lot of aluminum. It was very difficult to build, so GM contracted Mercury Marine in Oklahoma to build the engine. They shipped all the parts out, and they assembled it, and then shipped it back to the factory to put into the car. And the result was probably one of the most durable engines that, you know, GM produced. Maybe, I don't know, anybody produced. The ZR1 set 7 international speed records, including a world record for 24-hour endurance, average speed 175 miles an hour for 4,200 miles, which is pretty exceptional that it could do that. The car itself, the early models 90 through 92 produced 375 horsepower. They made some modifications to the heads, to the exhaust, and the valve train, and increased the horsepower to 404 for the final models. 0 to 60 time 4.4 seconds, and top speed 180 miles an hour. So that makes that endurance record even more phenomenal, that the car could run for 24 hours at 175 miles an hour, which is only 5 miles an hour off of its absolute top speed. So we'll take it for a test drive here in a little bit. Okay, we're gonna go for a little test drive in my 94 ZR1, which you can see is a little cramped for me. I'm 6'3". I think the best Corvette for me is the C3 Corvette. C1s I can't get into. C2s are acceptable, and then these cars are probably made for younger people, getting in and out. But anyway. So we talked a little bit about, you know, why these cars I think are extraordinary. In the engine does produce a pretty wide power band, which, you know, in all the cars I've driven, this one probably stands out the most with how it pulls through the gears at all RPMs. Really, it's quite interesting. But the one thing that I wanted to mention about the car that has always kind of caught my attention is how it was, the cost to build it. And you know, at the time, the standard Corvette was about $35,000, and the ZR1 option package, which was primarily the engine, but also suspension, rear fascia, some other wider fenders, was $31,000. So it almost doubled the price of the car, which you have to, you know, in itself is pretty amazing. And you know, they had the earlier models. I won't get these numbers exactly right, but in 1990 was the first year for it, and they produced, you know, well over 1,000 cars, 1,500. I'll get the exact numbers. And then 91 they produced less, but still quite a few. And then when they got up to 93, they started limiting the production to 448. Some of that was because the demand for them was dropping somewhat. And then in 1995, it was finally phased out just because the demand had kind of fallen off. I mean, pretty expensive car, and that option package pretty expensive, and you know, there weren't that many people that really wanted to buy that. You know, I find myself with this car driving around in 2 or 3 gears. So this is third gear on the highway, and it feels very comfortable. 4,000 RPM, 65 miles an hour. It's like, why do they have these other gears? So you can take it, put it in 6th, and drops down to at 60 miles an hour, it's 1,500 RPM. So it's loafing. 5th, 2,100 RPMs. 4th, 3,000. So again, as you're accelerating in this car, it's just amazing how there's no change to me in how it pulls throughout the RPM range. So pretty interesting. So that's a quick test drive in my 94 ZR1. This particular car, I looked for many years, actually, probably 4 to 5 years, and I don't know exactly why. I have a fascination for yellow Corvettes, but I do. And I said to myself, when a yellow Corvette ZR1 came available, I said 95, but 93, 94, 95, I was going to buy it. And so this one, a collector out on the West Coast had it. He'd looked for it for many years. It's an NCRS judged car. I don't remember the points, but it only lost a few points. So it was a welcome find, and I bought it. So anyway, thanks for coming along.